Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and here I have for you this month's Scrawlrbox. So this is the October Scrawlrbox. They were a wee bit late in getting shipped out this month, but nevertheless. So this is the art subscription box from here in the UK and it comes on a monthly basis for those of you that are unfamiliar with it. And basically it has goodies inside and the idea is to create an artwork with said art goodies to the prompt that they give you also. I wanted to point out as well, thanks for correcting me last time guys, I mentioned that the little card with the description about the materials wasn't in the box. My brain was so woolly because I was really unwell, and I remember after someone saying it that there is actually a QR code in the Scrawler zine, which is the magazine that comes in here, and a bit like Upcrate, it tells you about the supplies if you click on the QR code on your phone or whatever. So yeah, apologies for kind of like forgetting about that. I do tend to get things mixed up between Upcrate and Scrawlrbox just because they both land at the same time. Very similar setup, blah blah blah. The first thing I see is a palette. This does not fill me with joy. If this is more acrylic paint, I'm going to cry. Okay, so little flower palette. I actually already have one of these. Okay, so here's the Scrawler zine that I was just talking about. We'll check this out afterwards because we don't want to spoil the surprise. And it looks like we've got watercolour if the featured artist is anything to go by. What pretty colours! I'm trying to decide which way round is the right way round. I think this way. Emily Wassell, watercolour artist and educator from the UK. So she has a website and also an Instagram as well. If you want to check out some more of her work, go ahead. This is very delicate, so I like the colour palette. Oh, this feels heavy. Watercolour paper, cold pressed 300 GSM. Oh, heavy hitter, right enough. Okay, so we've got a wee bit of texture. Really difficult for me to show you the texture on the paper here. We'll be able to see it better when we are actually painting something. But yeah, so 300 GSM, proper thick, like, whoa. Can't say I'm a huge fan of this type of paper. It's just, I'm just not that excited about it. It will do the job though, and it should do a fairly good job. So we'll put it through its paces a little bit and see what we can do with it. Now, I'm hoping there's going to be watercolour in here. Otherwise, this is going to be a very strange box indeed. Let's see what we've got. Oh, look! Oh, look at Derwent Spritzer. Oh, guys. Look at my old battered one. He stood up quite well. These are great. I use this in videos all the time. Y'all will be familiar with this. Okay, so we can put that in the stash shop too. This is a water spritzer. This is great when you're using watercolour because we have the option to, you know, you can do wet and wet techniques with it. You can scoosh it once the paint's down. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. You can use it to wet your watercolour pans as well. So that's fabulous. And again, I'm just going to put that straight into the stash shop. So that's two items that I already own. And here we have a Derwent water brush. Oh, look at this bad boy! Wowee! I've had a Derwent water brush before and I really wanted to like it. And it was one of these with the push function, you know, it had a special button for the water letdown. My bristles did the same as the Milan water brush and they became loose quite quickly and then the pen started to leak here. This looks like it's a bit sturdier. I'm quite excited for this, but look at this, that's that brush. That's amazing. Getting that back in there though, this is a problem for me. And obviously you don't want to put it back in wet either because what that does is encourage mould to grow, amongst other things. Yeah, that's a really bad design. Okay, I am a huge fan of Derwent products generally. Is there ventilation in the cap? No. So if you put that in there damp, it's going to stay damp. There's no ventilation holes. So this was a terrible idea. And the cap doesn't fit. Oh, come on. Cap actually doesn't fit on the top. Guys, this is why I just use the Zig water brushes. Right, okay, so can't put the cap back on without splaying the bristles. Cap has no ventilation, so if your brush is still damp, it's you're going to encourage some growth in there. Let's just hope it actually works well as a water brush. Okay. Food-filled bubble gum. Oh, that sounds revolting. Yes, okay, yum yum. We'll get Mr. Jem to be the guinea pig for that one. Here is our little sticker. This is actually really pretty, so I'm very keen on the colours. And here's what we're after. Jackman's art materials. We've had something like this before. Definitely had Jackman's stuff before. Midnight Violet crystalline watercolour. Okay, so these are like granules that you make into a watercolour, and I guarantee they will not be light fast. Okay, Jackman's Grey Violet, so I think this might be this sort of colour around here. Okay, look at this, yellow, that's entertaining. Permanence AAA, semi-transparent, made in England. Okay. Oh, it is pigment, quinacridone magenta. Okay, I'm excited about this then. AAA permanence. That doesn't mean light fastness though, does it? Midnight violet. This looks pretty. Ooh. Oh, they look so pretty. Kind of annoyed about the water brush situation, not gonna lie. Supply info. Look at the code's tiny. No wonder I keep forgetting about it. Okay, so let's take a quick look through this and then we'll scan this QR code to learn a little bit more about the supplies. I'm quite excited about these. They kind of put me in mind of the Viviva watercolour sheets. Just the way the different pigments kind of go together, like to create the colour kind of thing. There's a little bit of that there. So let's have a little look here. This is Emily, and this is some of Emily's work. This is cute. So she combines patterns with organic things. And scrawler tips. Okay, so we'll probably pick some stuff up here. Looks can be deceiving. As these pots are made up with their pigments, the colour inside doesn't always match the paint. Swatch with water to reveal the real colour. Well, yeah, this was my point. And it's that mixing of pigments that makes the colour. So obviously, having just spent time with Julia Kate actually making paint, I find all this very interesting. These pigments will activate to create some really colourful blooms. Wet your page with the brush or the spritzer and then sprinkle. That's nice. Fill up your spritzer with the pigment. No thank you, that's traumatic. Let's not do that. Chem doesn't want to do that. By alternating which colour you can apply, you can create a whole rainbow of colourful blooms. If you attempt to layer a solid colour over the top, any pigment underneath will be activated, so you may lose your bloomy effect. Okay, so these must be really soluble then. I tend to find that if you do want to do something like that, if you let a bottom layer dry for as long as possible before you go back in over the top, that tends to help. If you do it, over the course of like say an hour or so when you're painting, it tends to lift more easily. Obviously it will still lift, it's watercolour, but I find it a little bit more stubborn, so you've got a bit more room to manoeuvre over the top with the layers if it's had the first layer's had a good drying time. Use the different wells in your palette to experiment with different intensities. The more water you add, the lighter your pigment will be. Okay, visual interest. Okay, we're talking about different types of colour and texture here. Yeah, they're saying here about making sure you've got an even colour payoff. If you do not mix this properly, you will get the pigment separately, obviously activated by water. So if you want that even colour, you need to make sure you give it a good round in your palette. Okay, fill it with pigment and water. Homemade paint pen you can use to draw and paint. I tend to not to favour to do that because I always find it very difficult to get the last traces of paint out, and then I'm always paranoid about using it just as a water brush afterwards, but each to their own. Pigments are messy work. If this doesn't sound like fun to you, it's advisable to wear old clothes, put on some gloves and lay down scrap paper on your work surface before you start. Always use a dry brush when removing pigment from the pot. A damp brush will result in your pigments activating and clumping in the pot. Okay, nice to see that they provided a brush for us to do that with. Thanks, Scrawlrbox. Okay, behind the artwork. So this is her talking about the actual piece itself, which is lovely. Scrawler Gallery. Yeah, this was the box with Willy Watt in it. I liked this box. I really enjoyed those pens. So much so that I'm actually thinking about stocking them in the stash shop. They're really nice. And you know me, I'm not necessarily a fan of the old marker pens. I'm really pleased to see Dalek Widow in here. Congratulations, madame. That is absolutely beautiful. Very, very impressed indeed. I really like this one as well of someone's living room, or if you're from Yorkshire, your front room. Little bit of an inside joke there for some of you. Yeah, these are lovely, guys. I'm not really into architecture, but they appeal to me for some reason. So yeah, I like all of them. Okay, favourite Scrawler Challenge artworks. Yeah, so I was in the live stream when they were looking through these and talking about them. So Emma Harding, Paul Boombridge, and Cindy Martin as well. I like this one. I think I like Cindy's the best. This is cute. Expression in art. So this is we're talking about Brian Lewis Saunders, and here we've got the live stream that they have every month. I have to be honest, I keep forgetting about this because it's so far away from unboxing the actual box. I tend not to forget about it. With the October one, which has passed now, I actually had a reminder set for YouTube to notify me, and surprise, surprise, YouTube did not notify me. So today I learned not to trust YouTube to remind me of anything. So I'm going to have to start putting a reminder on my phone or something. So I'm going to try and remember this time and participate and be part of the community, because that's what all of this is about. And here is our monthly challenge. So this is our Scrawler Challenge. The Scrawler Challenge is a loose leaf. Taking inspiration from this month's artist because she has quite a loose painting style, we are challenging you to let loose, so just spelling mistake, I am actually like the typo police. Challenge you to let loose with your creativity, whether those ideas stem, get it, from nature, experiences or emotions. Let your artwork bloom and flourish into something magic. Allow your thoughts to flourish onto the page with this month's free-flowing medium. I have to say I've been really enjoying the Scrawlrbox prompts recently, like they've been really good. The comparison of these to the Upcrate ones, I think the Upcrate ones get lost in translation a lot of the time because they're usually in German and then obviously translated into English, but I feel like a lot more thought goes into the Scrawlrbox prompts as well. So that's a lovely wee magazine. There's some really nice helpful hints in there without sort of dragging it out and like information overload. I want to grab this little tiny QR code now and have a look at the actual supplies and see if we can learn a bit more about them. Scrawlrbox. Okay, so here's the bit about the featured artist and the Scrawler Challenge. What's in the box? This is the bit we're interested in. I hate trying to zoom into this so that you guys can read it. And if I go too far in, you can't see the whole thing. Okay, so what's in the box? Jackman's crystalline watercolour pigments. I don't care about the company. Yes, blah, blah, blah. Packed full of unique and high quality pigment based crystalline painting medium. Light fast, it is light fast powder pigment. Mixed with water, semi-transparent matte finish. I think we're just going to have to fart about with these and try and make them into something fun. The Derwent water brush, okay, yeah, that I'm not a fan of already. This Derwent water brush was designed to use on the go. Well, not really, because you can't put the freaking lid on it. This means it's super easy to control flow design, which is leak proof. Simply fill the reservoir with water, gently squeeze to release the water into the tip, featuring a chisel tip, perfect for firm sharp lines or broad strokes. Easy to clean and of course refillable. Spritzer. This Derwent spritzer can create interesting textures, colour runs and paint dribble effects. That's going to be the fun part, is using the spritzer, you know, and like just dumping the pigment on the paper and just seeing what happens. Use under or over your pigments to mix up the effect it has. It can be used to distress your work and create other techniques for all the added fun. Yay! And here's just a little bit about the paint palette as well and the paper. I'm keen on the paper because it's 300 GSM because that's fairly sturdy. Okay, that was fun. Filling this up should be interesting. Obviously you can just fill this up under a tap or a faucet. But unfortunately, this is one of the things about Cave Mark III, the nearest water source is at the other end of the house. To be fair, we don't have much in the way of materials to test out. I will demonstrate the spritzer with my own slightly battered spritzer. And I'm going to go and dig out this as well. Yeah, look, here's mine. Not really a fan of plastic palettes. I imagine that this pigment will stain as well, so this has seen better days, this palette. Now, seeing as we're just testing out, I am not going to tape this paper down. I do want to see how much it buckles, so obviously we don't want to tape it down. And I'm interested in this water flow as well. Yeah, I've got a bit of a knackered paintbrush here. It's very bendy. This is an old paintbrush that I'm going to use to put some of these pigments out here. Maybe zoom in a little bit. Okay, so Midnight Violet. So this is us doing this with a dry brush. So I'm just going to poke that in there. And I don't know how much I'm going to need. I imagine the answer is not very much. So I'm just going to stick that in there. You can see that's escaped already elsewhere, so that's a problem. I'm going to put the lid on this right now before we have any accidents, because if anyone's going to have an accident, it's going to be Jem. Ideally, I think you want a separate dry brush for each of these. This is not ideal. It is not, like, they've given us a travel brush, and then we've got these pigments to deal with, which you need a dry brush, you need to watch for cross-contamination and blah, blah, blah. So maybe not the best idea. This is also very messy. You're not taking these anywhere with you. Trust me. I might just try and dump some of this out rather than using a brush. Yeah, there we go. I like the tapping out method better. Right, that's 2 drops of water in there. And I do believe this is the turquoise. Ooh, PD. Look how concentrated that is though, because I've only put 2 drops of water in. Let's just splodge a bit of that down there. Yeah, I knew that was going to ruin my water straight away. While that's wet on the paper. Oh, that was fun. Look at it. Look at it go. Okay, so that's fun. Instantly the paper's like, I can get my fingers underneath there. The paper has gone, nope, and tried to buckle up. But that is expected. I mean, obviously it's paper, that's going to happen. But look at that colour, that is quite something. Let's see what happens with the other colours now. Let's pop this up here for a minute. Make sure this brush is completely clean. Oh yeah. So you can see where we're going with this, or where we might go with this. There are lots and lots of applications. The colour is absolutely mental. Looks like a unicorn's pooped in my water. Let's pop some in here. Now that's interesting, that looks very green. And we keep mixing, and we keep mixing, and we keep mixing. I don't know what this is. It's supposed to be... Oh, it just looks really messy. It's supposed to be a grey-violet colour. That doesn't look great. I think I've got a bit of contamination there, honestly. There seems to be an awful lot going on in there. It looks almost green in there, though. This stuff is so pigmented, like you only need a tiny little splodge of it. And I don't see much. I don't know if this is maybe the grey-violet colour around the outside, but... Okay, this looks like a really big mishmash of pigments, and I don't know, like even really mixing them out doesn't seem to be doing much. Let me try and, yeah, that's better. Okay, so you really have to mix the grey, like really have to. But look how delicate that is watered down. That's really nice. I really don't want to do this. This is 100% going to stain this, but I suppose that's what we're here for, isn't it? Let me get water flow going first, and let's just pick some of this pigment up. Ooh. Now, this brush is, it's getting a bit excited with itself in terms of water flow, so I'm going to give it a chance to calm down a wee bit, because I did go a bit ham there, to be fair. The water flow, I would say, is quite fast. That's spitting out a lot of water there. Obviously the size of the bristles has a lot to do with that. I would be very wary of that on this size of paper. I've talked about this once or twice before, and sometimes I feel that the supplies, so in this instance, look at my hands, in this instance, this water brush, sometimes the brushes are disproportionate to the size of the paper that we get. That is a fairly big, wide brush. Great if you want to do a wash over the whole thing, but realistically, the water flow, although we can use the brush on its ends, on its sides, the water flow rate is probably going to ruin things for us. I am very sceptical of all water brushes until proven otherwise, just because of my previous experiences. A lot of it is down to pressure for me as well, though. I try very hard just to use my thumb and my first finger when I'm squeezing these, because these are the only two fingers I can rely on. That's very personal to me, obviously. But yeah, I just feel like that's a lot of water that's come out of there. But you can see the texture of the paper quite well now as well, especially in this part here. It is quite textured. Where I sprayed the spritz, like it's kind of gone daft there. That's quite a lot. But again, if you tape that down, that will be much less. This pigment is everywhere. So quite interesting. We can mix them, we can smoosh them together to make other colours. So could be quite interesting. Very soluble. Look, I'm kind of scrubbing away at that part there, and that's lifting off quite a lot. It's giving us like an indigo colour. You know me, I like an indigo colour. So yeah, I like the colour palette. The pigments they were what I would call wayward, might be difficult to control, very messy. Payoff for that is that they are super pigmented. Like, look how rich and dark that purple is. I would want to sit and do something with a really delicate brush, like smaller than this, and really control these pigments. I mean, look, that's almost black, but the more I dilute that out, then the more interesting it becomes. So a little goes a long way, I think, is the moral to the story here. This is just like screaming unicorns at me, I don't know why. The water brush, I don't know how to feel about this, guys. I'm going to reserve judgment on this until we have actually done something with the Scrawler Challenge, which we'll get onto in just a minute. So first impressions, the pigments are lovely. I just think that they're a bit wild, honestly. Is it something I would use every day or in my normal repertoire? The answer is categorically no. So I can safely say that this entire box will be in the stash shop in some capacity. But before we do that, we are obviously going to, well, I'm going to clean my hands first. I'm going to go away and make myself a cup of tea and have a think about this, and we're going to come up with something for the prompt loose leaf. Righty McHoho, this is really not my wheelhouse, so I'm not really sure where I'm going with this here, but we'll just give it a bash, why not? So I've taken a sheet of my watercolour paper here and I have taped it down just on a bit of cardboard with some very pretty Julia Kay washi tape. If you like Julia's washi tapes, she has lots of them on her Etsy store. I'll leave the link to that down in the description. Yes, so the first thing that I want to do is mix some of these paints. We established earlier on that you only need a tiny amount. So what I'm thinking is the prompt is loose leaf, so I think I'm going to take that quite literally, and I'm thinking maybe like a falling leaf that's maybe started to like curl over or just something like that. So I was trying to decide with these colours. Obviously the pigments kind of mix together as you go. So what I was thinking was I could use this violet colour, the Midnight Violet, as like a background wash, and use the turquoise colour for the body of the leaf, and that would leave me the grey violet to mix in with it to use as like a sort of shadow or a contrast colour. I am going to cheat 100%. Most of you will know that normally I'm quite strict with only using the supplies in the box. This brush, you know, I'd like to spit out something relatively sensible, and I don't think this brush is going to cut it for me. So I've got my teeny tiny sea white here. This is like a comfy pair of slippers. It's a size 0. It's like the smallest brush known to man, and I am going to employ that while I do this. So if anybody doesn't like it, tough. I think the first thing I need to do is just get a wash down. Oh my god, that's tons. That is tons. So I've got a little pipette here. I steal these from work, don't tell anyone, but you can get like packs of them on Amazon fairly cheap if you want to employ that. So I'm just adding a little bit of water there, and we need to mix this up. Again, I'm going to use a separate brush for this. I'm trying not to cross-contaminate things. I'm not using this brush to put this on the actual paper. This is still really vibrant. So first things first, I am going to use my water brush and I am going to wet the paper. I'm going to do a fairly good job here because I want this to be a proper wash. So yeah, that was a good shout, mixing a couple of dilutions. I don't want it to be completely smooth, so I'm just going to add a bit here and there. Okay, I'm going to leave that like that. I'm just going to leave it to dry. So we're nice and dry now, and I've got quite a nice delicate wash there with a little bit of texture. The next thing I want to do, and I don't know whether I actually want to do this or not, but we're going to do it anyway, is I'm going to scoosh, so I'm just thinking in layers, I'm going to scoosh a couple of spots on the paper here, and I'm just going to fling in some of the pigment like raw and just see what happens. So let's, I don't want to wet this too much so that this background colour runs. I have let it dry for ages, so hopefully that's enough. So again, I've gone back to my Midnight Violet. There are a lot of different pigments in the grey violet, and I'm actually quite tempted to do it with that because there's quite a lot of pinks and things in there. So, and this is going to be, this might be a disaster, this might be a terrible idea. So that was just a couple of scooshes. And that doesn't seem to have done anything. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so let's, oh, that's interesting. So let's maybe do that again. Well, this is fun. See, there's a lot of yellow there. And I'll do one more down here just for funsies. Oh, that was way too much. Okay. Yes, I get carried away myself. So let's just give that a spray again. And they look like pretty flowers. Wow. So same thing again. I'm just going to let that dry. I'm going to let that dry. Okay, so this is all dry now. It slid while it was still drying, so I've got this weird scrape mark across it, but it's fine. Look at all the colours we've got because we haven't mixed them together. So I've mixed the grey violet and I've kept it quite concentrated. I'm going to use that almost as like a liner, but also as a shadow colour as well. And this is me mixing the turquoise I'm being careful to make sure I mix this properly, because if you don't, this is what you're going to end up with. So that's a downside to this. If you're wanting uniform colour, you have to be really careful. So I'm going to take this Derwent brush now, and again just make sure that this is nice and clean. So I'm going to take some of this colour, and I just want to sort of carve the basic shape of my leaf here. So this is my favourite way to work with any type of watercolour, and that is not to have any sort of sketch down. For someone that's very sort of regimented and precise, I get this sort of like cheap thrill out of not having a sketch layer, and I have no idea why I am like that, I just am. So this is going to mix with the colour underneath. I'm going to try not to scrub it, I'm going to go for a dabbing technique, and then I'm going to have a stem that comes up there. Okay, that I'm actually really happy with that. I never thought I would say that. And again, just the same process. I'm going to leave that to dry. This should dry fairly quickly though. Nice and dry now. I want to start splitting off and making the darker areas more obvious. So this is what I was hoping would happen, that it would start to mix in with some of the other colours, you know, that are underneath. Now this stuff is pretty soluble. You know, it's letting me do my thing. I'm quite aware of the number of layers of paint that I've got on the paper as well though, to get my dark bits really dark, so it's kind of in my interests to work in this while it's still damp. Okay, so while that's drying, I want to do a bit with the stock. So now I'm going to move round to using this really concentrated grey violet, which again I'm just kind of like want to test out. It's not like black would be too stark, you know, just this is a very delicate piece of art clearly, which is quite unusual for me. But black would just, it would stand out too much, it would look really out of place. Okay, so I just want to get a little bit more contrast in now. Okay, that is literally all the detail I wanted to add in. But now what I do want to do is get the contrast in here. So again, just working on these darker parts. Kind of struggling a bit with this now. But that's okay. And yeah, there we go. I haven't really decided which way round this should go. Maybe it should go that way. It looks a bit more like a leaf in that direction, I think. Do you know what? I'm actually really happy with this, and I'm kind of glad that I decided to cheat and use that tiny little paintbrush, because it's made the difference for me between what would have been a crap attempt at, you know, just going for the Scrawler challenge here and now, and something that's actually quite respectable, especially for me. Most of you will know I like to dabble in watercolour, like I like to sploosh it about a bit, but it's not really my thing. I'm a pencil monster through and through. So yeah, actually weirdly pleased with this, and it's been quite a long time since I've done an art box challenge that's not in my wheelhouse and been happy with it. So this is actually a really nice way to finish this video off. Ooh, satisfying. I've kind of taken some of the paper with me on the washi tape, but that's okay. I wasn't being, oh no, don't do that. Okay, I wasn't being particularly careful there. So there we have it, guys. That is the October Scrawlrbox. I would love to know your thoughts on the box itself, what you think of these watercolours, and what you think of how the box has been put together, etc. as well. This has been an unexpectedly lovely box for me. I honestly didn't think I was going to enjoy it that much, just because this type of medium is very messy and not normally something I would be in dealings. The water brush fared better than I thought it would. My only bugbear with this is if you want to put the cap on it and not have your bristles all splayed out, you have to put it in there wet. If you leave that to dry, they all fan out and spread out and then you can't get the lid on. But in terms of controlling actually using it as a water brush, it's pretty good. I will be putting most of this in the stash shop, as I mentioned at the start of the video. I've used my own atomizer, which is a bit battered, so the one that's going in the stash shop will be unused. So all in all, a huge thumbs up. Loved the prompt, loved the versatility and the kind of like fun factor of these. It was really, really nice to have that. Loved the colour palette too, and obviously extra pleased because I've actually produced something that I would consider respectable, which is always nice when you're doing these boxes. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for coming and joining me. Thank you for hanging out. Please open your mouth and let your guts rumble down in the comments. I really enjoy reading the comments. And I will see you back in the cave on Sunday for yet another unboxing, and on Sunday it is the turn of Artful. So it's a bit of a twist, this one, so be sure to tune in for that then. Have a great day, everyone, and bye-bye for now.